Last night, Newcastle woman Una Pirrie told how a Raymond Terrace man, Dr Hans Butenhaus, had said he could cure her cancer. After 4 months of acupuncture treatment and a mixture of Eastern and Western herbs, he proclaimed her body free of cancer. But Una was not cured. She still has the cancer. Dr David Clark is a Newcastle surgeon. A patient of his, who also has breast cancer, was treated by Dr Butenhaus. Butenhaus has warned people against surgery for cancer. Dr Clark's patient postponed her conventional treatment while she was treated by Butenhaus.
I lost contact with her for 4 months. She was scheduled to have surgery by me and then cancelled. And then eventually came back to me 4 months later, at which time she did go ahead with surgery.
Dr Butenhaus has claimed he's a pathologist, but the New South Wales Medical Board has no record of him having worked as a doctor or as a pathologist. He says he has a master's and a PhD, but they are not from a currently recognised degree course in the UK. He also claims to have worked as an acupuncturist in China for 13 years. We've discovered that in the early 80s, Dr Hans Butenhaus worked here at what was the Singleton Cooperative Dairy Company. He was the head of the pump and irrigation section. While colleagues remember Hans Butenhaus, they don't remember him being called doctor.
If a farmer had a breakdown in any irrigation or pressure system on his property that pumps the water or waters the land, he was to go out and fix that fault.
This was one of the irrigation systems Dr Butenhaus maintained in the Singleton area. After leaving this job, he worked as an acupuncturist and set up a clinic at Muswellbrook and Raymond Terrace. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Imported coal. However, there are other competing fuels such as gas and maybe nuclear. The competing fuels have their own problems, cost in the case of gas and safety concerns in the case of nuclear. Given the importance of the design and construction of this plant, given the potential huge investments required air systems to cater for high moisture coals, low NOx, high swirl burn is the delivery of PF product in a reed injected directly through the bottom injectors along with some gas in a stream of nitrogen. Thereby
The sky is the limit for shoppers in the Hunter Mall, but that could end with this development application, a giant architect-designed glass and cloth canopy to cover about a third of the mall from Thorn to Morgan Street.
I guess it's a recognition that something needs to be done to make the area more attractive.
The $2 million plan on show at Newcastle Council includes the building of balconies on the existing heritage-listed buildings, opening up new areas for shoppers and giving Market Square a fresh look. The cover for the mall has been well accepted.
I think it would be a good idea because people would come here when it rained.
Especially, to stop the rain and stuff like that, yeah. Sounds good to me.
If approved, the cover should be in by November. Peter Ryan, NBN News. According to figures from the New South Wales Farmers Association, more than 75% of farmers didn't even make break-even last year. Drought and fluctuating prices pushed producers into a corner. The Department of Agriculture is offering those stranded the least painful way out.
We've also got a responsibility for people that often for no fault of their own have got into difficulty and would be better off in a lifestyle away from the farming.
The book, Leaving the Farm, gives advice on talking to your banker, preparing the farm for sale, managing taxation. There's even advice on a career beyond the farm gate. According to the Department of Agriculture, farmers have one distinct advantage when in the market for a new job. They're not afraid to put in a good day's work.
They've been hard workers all of their life, and they've had to show initiative to do the work by themselves.
The book gives the fine financial line you must keep above to stay on the land, a figure a growing number of farmers need to define before they get too far in debt. Meanwhile, drought conditions have worsened in New South Wales, with now 59% of the state, seen here in brown, in trouble. It's estimated sheep numbers are down 40% in the Western Division. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Current World Formula One champion Ayrton Senna was just one who got his start in go-karts. For young Ben Cook and Philip Seifleet, that's a long way away, but they're jetting out for Gothenburg in Sweden on Sunday to contest the World Junior Championships next month. Both have had considerable success in junior clubmen, Ben grabbing a win at the Tamworth Grand Prix meeting and Philip finishing 6th. Both are confident that they will perform well.
We raced them against them in Hong Kong and they weren't much quicker than us there. We went all right.
Normally over there we don't go too well, but some of us go pretty well as long as we have good stuff and that and good motors and that. Hopefully we'll go good.
Not only will it be some adventure for Ben and Philip, but a chance to gain plenty of experience in karting.
Hopefully we'll learn a lot, so when we come back here we hopefully be out in front of the rest of them.
Ben and Philip are taking their own equipment with them in an all-out assault on the title.
It's very important because you really got to get everything together before you get to racing, so you got more of a chance.
What sort of goal have you set yourself?
Up the top in the top 5.
Hepatitis C is a new strain of the virus. Isolated in April 1989, and a screening test for it has been used since February 1990. An investigation by the Central Coast Health Service has revealed that early in 1990, 5 people donated blood which contained hepatitis C. That blood was then given to patients who required blood transfusions. It seems an employee with the Central Coast Health Service didn't destroy the contaminated blood.
It was obvious that because of the confusion over the policies and procedures, that blood that should have been discarded on the basis of these relatively primitive tests at that stage was not discarded.
Between February and April 1990, 12 Central Coast residents received the blood. Of the 11 that have been contacted, 8 have tested positive for the disease. Some people who have the virus display no symptoms, while others can develop liver cancer.
Many of them are very anxious about what their final outcome might be found to be. On the other hand, many of them have actually expressed gratitude or appreciation that yes, we have gone to the trouble to trace them, to inform them of what's going on.
The Central Coast Health Service has offered the victims follow-up medical treatment. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The coach and a semi-trailer collided at a notoriously dangerous intersection in Jin, 300 kilometres north of Brisbane yesterday afternoon. The Mercedes coach, just 8 months old, flipped onto its side from the impact, trapping several passengers. The 30 people on board were just 3 days into a 52-day around Australia tour mounted by Newcastle company Australian Scenic Tours. Senior company officials went straight to the accident scene in Queensland to investigate the matter. Staff left at the Hunter Street headquarters were inundated with calls from anxious next of kin. Staff are also arranging transport to Queensland for those who wish to join their relatives at Jin, at nearby Bundaberg or in Brisbane. Those people from our viewing area involved are the driver, Harry Howard of Merewether, a senior coach captain with 20 years' experience. He suffered spinal injuries and is in hospital in Brisbane. The hostess, Lee Brooker of Carrington, who's in Bundaberg Hospital, Anthony and Peggy Carl of Adamstown, Colin and Philip Gill of East Maitland, Clyde and Eileen Rowley of Lambton, Mr Rowley is in hospital, Sydney and Kathleen West of Long Jetty, Mrs West is in the Bundaberg Hospital, and Mary Wynne of Denman and William Tall of Port Macquarie, who are also in hospital. All the passengers are aged in their 60s or 70s. It's another tragedy to add to the list involving travellers from this area. We were touched by the Kempsey, Grafton and Tamworth crashes, and 6 elderly people from Newcastle died in the Mount Tamborine accident in the Gold Coast hinterland in September 1990.
Roughly how long does it take you? Rough idea.
Oh, 15 minutes.
So I can organise the...
All seems well for Daisy, JW and Dee. The 3 little cubs have been in the care of the Lismore Friends of the Koala Group. Daisy was found blinded with an eye disease but has since been nursed back to health. JW fell from a tall tree and was separated from his mum. Little Dee lost her way in a storm. The carers go to extraordinary lengths with their charges.
With these little cubs, when they're first taken in, you must really give them plenty of TLC, and that means take them into the bedroom, put them up a high limb, and when they cry and want attention, you must get them down.
The koalas will now spend about 3 months in a special compound outside Lismore, their regular gum leaf diet supplemented by specially picked leaves. The pair were attempting to cross the bar at the entrance of the Nambucca River in the early hours of this morning in a 4-metre aluminium fishing boat when tragedy struck. A freak wave hit the vessel, flipping it over. Police say 15-year-old Joseph Hannaford, clad in a life jacket, was seen clinging to the edge of the boat. His father, Philip, was swept away by the current but managed to attract the attention of nearby fishermen.
I heard one chap saying, "Oi, oi, where are you? Where are you?" And I just couldn't make out where it was because it was dark, and all I could hear was a couple of voices. But I just kept on walking. I thought it was a couple of young kids out there fishing or something.
But on retrieval of the vessel, Philip Hannaford found his son tangled in the boat's windshield underneath the water, possibly dragged under by the current. The boy was rushed to Maxville Hospital but was dead on arrival. The scene of the accident is a popular fishing spot, but locals say it can be treacherous.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise anyone else to go out here unless they knew where they were going.
This match was deferred from April the 12th and Kempsey applied the early pressure and the points. Darren Kershaw superb as he broke through and was brought down just short of the line. But from the play of the ball, front rower Matt Kennedy barged over. Kershaw then fell victim to a cruel piece of bad luck. The grubber rebounding off his knee, it fell on the boot of Tom Robbie's and he levelled the scores. Final score, 6-all. Rhys Duncan Jr. has proved too strong and has retained his Australian wave ski title at Emerald Beach. Stuart Lawson was a close second, with Darren Kearns third. Lisa Ryan reigns supreme in the ladies, with Lucy Priest second and Natalie Furman third. "200 carters from New South Wales are pushing their machinery as well as themselves to the limit in search of a state sprint kart title. Qualifying sorted many out this morning, and then it was down to the serious side of things with heats 1 and 2. 10 classes make up the field, and today Scott Jowan and Tim Craig performed well in the junior and clubman light respectively, while Joshua Floyd-Smith dominated the clubman heavies. Local lad Graham Armstrong was a tearaway winner of the Piston Port. A full report on the finals in tomorrow night's news. At Wingham, 120 shooters are contesting the 41st Annual Open Championships, and there is a twist to this year's titles.
Because of the economic situation, Wingham Rifle Club has decided not to shoot for prize money, to reduce the entry fee, and all the competitors are shooting for electrical goods as trophies.
Aim had to be spot on from 500 and 600 yards today, and tomorrow it's 300, 5 and 600 yard competitions. All zones in New South Wales are represented, and also making an appearance at the championships are teams from Western Australia. Divisions that are being contested are men's and women's, intermediate women's, open and juniors, and games are spread over 7 separate fields. Hunter Valley in the blue and boasting 3 current state players overpowered Northwest Plains in their match. Hunter got away to a flying start and were never in trouble, winning 21-6. Play continues tomorrow with all finals being decided in the afternoon. Ever heard of the Newcastle Blackbutts, the Canberra Royals, the Hawkesbury Phillies, or the Sydney PMT Blues? If you haven't, don't worry, neither had anyone else until today, when the team straight onto the number 2 sports ground to create history, the first women's rugby matches in Australia. And right from the outset, the girls turned on the razzle-dazzle. Jenny Smith from Canberra, sensational. Not long after, Smith was at it again, crossing for another 4-pointer, signalling an attacking blitz by the women from the capital. And after it was all over and the ice packs had been applied, the realisation it was a bit tougher than first thought.
It's the first time we've come into a real contact game and we just weren't ready for it, but I'm sure we'll be ready next game.
There's a few new girls haven't sort of played any touch football league that really got in there and showed that they can play the sport.
And they'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. The Northern Division Australian Football Championships, which are being held over 2 days this weekend. Central, Mid-North and North Coast teams join Northwest, Summerland and Newcastle in the title race, with the winner going on to play the Southern champions for the New South Wales country title. For Northwest, an unhappy start against Summerland, being hammered by 64 points. Newcastle got away to a flying start in today's round-robin series with 2 wins, a 15-point triumph over Summerland and this hiding of North Coast. Jodie Bailey was sensational with 2 brilliant marks to get the forward line moving. Paul McNamara joined in with a screamer and capped off the fine mark with a goal to put the host in an unbeatable position. Central North also had a win over the Mid-North Coast. A bitterly cold night at Harker Oval and mistakes were the order of the first half, with Souths coughing up plenty of ball at the wrong times, and it seemed that Western Suburbs, in trying to spread it, were guilty of the same crime. But when the Rosellas got it together, it was spectacular. Greg Price to Tony Price, and the brilliant half march through the Lions' defence, threw a super pass to Darren Tracy, and the big centre used brute strength to crash over in the corner. Newcastle has made a great start to the Northern Australian Football Carnival with 2 good wins over Summerland and North Coast. Against the Coast, Jodie Bailey was brilliant, taking 2 big marks. And not to be outdone, Paul McNamara joined in to snare a beauty. And followed that up by kicking the goal. It rained 6-pointers for the first half with goals to Glenn Edwards and then to Andy Thomas, with Newcastle running out winners by 82 points.
The cadets of TS Tobruk had the honour as the first people to fire one of the guns at Fort Scratchley in more than 30 years. It's almost 50 years to the day that the 6-inch guns returned enemy fire, presumed to be from a Japanese submarine. It's believed the sub escaped undamaged. There were some superficial hits to Newcastle. The gun will be fired again tomorrow and on Monday, remembering the time when the city was under attack in war.
The current hard times have restricted the numbers slightly this year, but still Victoria, Queensland, South Australia and New South Wales are represented. It's a week of bowls and good times, with 5 events for ladies and also the men. The prestigious contest of the weekend is the men's fours, and 42 teams are battling for the championship. 4 rounds have been played over the past 2 days, and tomorrow each team is graded into 4 sections, where they will hold their own tournament within the event. Over $8,000 is up for grabs, plus around $2,000 in the form of trophies. At Cape Hawke Surf Lifesaving Club near Foster this weekend, the New South Wales Country Inshore Rescue Boat Championships have provided plenty of spectacular action, although today a flat sea made for pace rather than aerial manoeuvres. 17 clubs vied for 10 titles, from the tube rescue right through to the mass rescue, and it was South Coast who dominated. Kiama Downs blitzed the opposition to once again take out the overall title, and they were the only club to make every final. Kiama was second from another club south of Sydney, Warilla. And Newcastle has defended its Northern New South Wales Australian Football Championship, but not without a struggle. Summerland has just failed to make the final, going down to the Central Coast by only 5 points, while Newcastle beat North Coast by the same margin. Newcastle nearly kicked themselves out of the grand final against the Central Coast, 1-12 with a long break. A strong third quarter where they kicked 3 goals secured a hard-fought 7-18 to 6-7 win.
Since the new firearms regulations came into force last month, many sections of the rural community have targeted the laws and the politicians for being too harsh. For those voices of dissent, there'll be an open ear on Thursday when Ted Pickering will be the focus of a gun laws meeting in Glen Innes.
And I think the meeting on Thursday night in Glen Innes will make that point very clear to him, that there are a great number of people in the community who are not happy with the new gun laws because they take away from people rights that they had to guns that they had legally purchased and for which they have carried on responsible and safe use for many years.
Ray Chappell has been one of 5 state MPs monitoring the impact of the new regulations. The Northern Tablelands member believes a number of amendments are essential, and that's something he hopes will come out of the public meeting.
I think there's some sign on the basis of some work that I've been doing along with some of my colleagues that the Minister is aware of some of the problems. For instance, the ability of farmers to move a firearm from one property to another, or in fact down the road to a second gate into their property.
The meeting will be held in the Glen Innes Town Hall from 7:30.
With some likely restructuring expected in the Tasmanian Department of Agriculture, the North West branch is seen as a model.
We're interested to come to this region in northern New South Wales to see what is, by all reports, a good operation in terms of its research, its advisory and its extension.
With the rural areas of Tasmania and the North West quite similar environmentally, the Tasmanian group is interested in all aspects of the department's functions, particularly the North West's relationship with the community.
I think importantly from this region we can see a pretty good and close relationship between the department, New South Wales Agriculture and the farmers. And unfortunately in our state we've tended to lose that a bit, and I guess that's what our review is about.